My fiancée cheated, then told me I still had to pay for her girls' trip because saying no was controlling. When I cut off the money and walked away instead, she fell apart in front of the same friends she bragged to about her freedom. All right, Reddit, buckle up because this one's a doozy. My fiancée cheated on me, told me I was controlling for not wanting to fund her vacation anymore, and then had a complete meltdown in front of the same friends she'd been bragging to about her newfound freedom. Here's how that played out. I'm Garrett, 31 years old, and I work as a welder for a commercial fabrication company in northern Arizona. Been doing it for about 9 years now, and I'm good at it. Real good. The kind of good where companies call my boss specifically asking if I'm available for their projects. Certified in TIG, MIG, stick welding, you name it. I pull in solid money, own my own truck outright, and bought a 3-bedroom house 2 years ago that I've been slowly renovating on weekends. Not glamorous work, but it pays the bills and then some. Plus, there's something satisfying about building things with your hands, watching raw metal transform into something functional and permanent. My dad was a welder before me, taught me everything I know before he passed 5 years ago from a heart attack that came out of nowhere. Every time I strike an arc, I feel connected to him somehow. He used to say a man's worth is measured by what he builds, not what he buys. My house is this 1970s ranch that needed serious work when I bought it. Previous owners had let it go to seed for about 15 years, but I saw the potential underneath the neglect. Spent my first 6 months ripping out carpet that was older than me, refinishing the original hardwood floors that had been hidden underneath, updating the electrical that was still running on the original 100 amp service. The kitchen was a disaster zone of orange laminate counters and avocado appliances that probably hadn't been updated since Nixon was in office, but I gutted it down to the studs and rebuilt it myself. New cabinets I ordered from a wholesaler and installed myself. Granite countertops that I got at cost through a buddy who works in stone fabrication. Stainless steel appliances that I bought during a holiday sale and had delivered one piece at a time. My buddy Jake helped with the plumbing, because I'm not an idiot who thinks YouTube videos make him a licensed plumber. Some things you leave to the professionals. Jake's been my best friend since high school. Works as a licensed electrician now, owns his own house about 15 minutes from mine, and has this golden retriever named Duke who thinks he's a lapdog despite weighing about 80 pounds. Jake's the kind of guy who'll drop everything to help you move a couch or bail you out of a bad situation. We've had each other's back since we were 16 years old working summer jobs at the same landscaping company. That's where I met Britney, not at the landscaping company, but at my house. She was a real estate agent showing the property next door to some young couple looking to buy their first home, and I was outside replacing my mailbox post that had rotted through at the base. She wandered over to say hello, probably curious about the sweaty guy with the post hole digger and concrete mix. We got to talking about the neighborhood, the housing market, whether I was selling anytime soon. I told her I'd just bought the place and planned to stay forever. She laughed and said that was rare in her business. Most people treated houses like investments to flip rather than homes to live in. She seemed genuinely interested in the renovation work I'd been doing. We exchanged numbers that afternoon. Within a month, we were officially dating. Britney was gorgeous in that effortlessly put-together way that some women just seem to master. Always had her nails done in some neutral shade that cost way more than nail polish should. Hairstyled even when she was just running errands. Dressed like she was about to walk into a business meeting even on casual Saturday afternoons when we were just grabbing lunch. She sold houses for one of those big franchise agencies with the distinctive signs and was pretty successful at it too. Made decent money, drove a nice car, had a condo downtown with a view of the mountains. What drew me to her initially was how different we were. She was all polish and presentation while I showed up to dates with grease still under my fingernails half the time. She thought it was charming, called me her rugged guy and her blue-collar king, said she was tired of dating soft men who couldn't change a tire or hang a shelf without calling a handyman. Guys who didn't know the difference between a Phillips head and a flathead screwdriver. For a while, that seemed true. She'd come over to my place while I worked on projects, sitting on the tailgate of my truck while I cut lumber or welded brackets for the pergola I was building in the backyard. She'd ask questions about what I was doing, seemed genuinely interested in the process. She'd bring me sandwiches and sit with me in the garage while I worked on the old motorcycle I was restoring, a 1978 Honda CB 750 that I'd found on Craigslist for practically nothing. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. Did the whole thing right too. Took her to Sedona, hiked to Cathedral Rock at sunset because she'd mentioned once how much she loved that view. Got down on one knee with a ring I'd saved 6 months to afford. It was a princess cut diamond, just over a carat, set in white gold because she'd mentioned once she preferred silver tones to yellow gold. I'd been paying attention. She cried, said yes, kissed me about 15 times while saying, "Oh my God," over and over. Then she posted it all over social media within 30 seconds of the ring going on her finger. Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, hashtags like Icides and Fiancée and engaged with about 50 emojis. Looking back, that should have been my first red flag. The ring wasn't even fully on before she was angling for the perfect photo, adjusting her hand, asking me to hold my position so she could get the sunset in the background. The engagement was real. The performance of the engagement was what mattered more. Her parents were decent enough, I guess. Her dad, Richard, was some kind of financial consultant who worked from home and seemed perpetually distracted by whatever was happening on his laptop. Her mom, Linda, was a former pageant queen turned homemaker who had opinions about everything and shared them freely, whether you asked or not. The decor in your house, the brand of car you drove, whether you should be wearing that shirt with those pants. Nothing was too small for Linda's unsolicited commentary. They weren't thrilled about their daughter marrying a welder, but they kept their disapproval to polite skepticism rather than outright hostility. Small comments here and there. Questions that weren't really questions. Linda once asked me at a family dinner if I'd ever considered transitioning to management at my company. Like welding was just a stepping stone to a real career, rather than a skilled trade that paid better than most office jobs. I told her welders with my certifications make more than most managers, and she just smiled that tight smile people do when they've decided you're beneath them, but are too polite to say it out loud. Richard asked me once what my 5-year plan was. I told him my plan was to keep doing good work, keep improving my house, and build a life with his daughter. He nodded, like I'd just told him I planned to collect bottle caps for a living and hope for the best. The engagement period started strong enough. We set a date for the following October, started planning the wedding, opened a joint account specifically for wedding expenses. I put in $12,000 from my savings, money I'd been setting aside for years. Britney contributed $8,000. We had a budget, a timeline, a venue booked, and a shared Google Doc tracking every vendor and deposit. Then came the friends. Britney had this group of girlfriends from her sorority days at the state university. Megan, Courtney, Ashley, and Danielle. They called themselves the Fabulous Five, without a single trace of irony or self-awareness. All of them were some variation of real estate agent, marketing coordinator, or influencer, with 3,000 Instagram followers and delusions of sponsorship deals that never materialized. These women operated like a hive mind. Whatever one of them thought, they all thought. Whatever one of them decided to do, they all had to do it together. And increasingly, whatever they thought Britney should do became gospel truth that couldn't be questioned. Megan was the ringleader. Twice divorced by 29, worked at some boutique marketing firm where her job title included words like synergy and engagement metrics, and had an opinion about everyone else's relationship despite her own track record reading, like a cautionary tale about what not to do with your love life. She'd been with her current boyfriend for maybe 4 months, and already talked about him like he was a backup plan she was tolerating until something better came along. I noticed the shift in Britney around 8 months into our engagement. She started going out more with the girls. Happy hours that used to end by 7 turned into club nights that went until 2 in the morning. Club nights turned into weekend trips to Phoenix or Vegas or wherever the Fabulous Five decided they needed to be. And somewhere along the line, I became the obstacle rather than the partner. The first time I felt it was when I suggested we stay in one Saturday night because I'd been working long shifts all week and was exhausted. She looked at me like I'd asked her to give up her firstborn child. Said the girls were counting on her. Said I was being clingy. Said I needed to understand that she wasn't going to be one of those women who disappeared into her relationship. I let it go. Figured she was right. Figured I was being too needy. The first real argument was about a bachelorette trip. The Fabulous Five had decided Britney absolutely needed a destination bachelorette party in Miami. 5 days, luxury hotel on South Beach, VIP tables at the hottest clubs, private yacht rental, the whole ridiculous package. Price tag somewhere north of $4,000 per person. I suggested that seemed excessive, considering we were trying to save for the wedding and honeymoon we'd planned for Italy. Britney accused me of being controlling. That word. Controlling. It became the go-to accusation whenever I expressed any opinion she didn't like. I pointed out that I wasn't saying she couldn't go, just that maybe they could do something more reasonable. Vegas for a weekend was still plenty fun. A spa retreat locally would be relaxing. Something that didn't require a small mortgage and maxing out credit cards. She said I didn't understand how important her friendships were. That I was trying to isolate her from the people who mattered most. That Megan had warned her I might start showing my true colors eventually. And here they were. Megan. Of course. The twice-divorced relationship expert had opinions about my controlling behavior. She went to Miami anyway. I didn't fight it because I figured picking my battles was the mature thing to do. She came back with a tan, exhaustion that lasted 3 full days, and $4,000 less in her personal savings that she definitely couldn't afford to spend. The trip apparently included the private yacht day, expensive dinners every night, a VIP section at some club I'd never heard of, and a sunrise beach photo shoot with a photographer they hired specifically for Instagram content. The Instagram posts from that trip were interesting. Lots of bikini shots, lots of glasses held up against sunset backgrounds, lots of captions about freedom and living her best life, and girls supporting girls. Not a single mention of the fact that she was engaged. Not one photo of the ring. Not one hashtag about having a fiancé at home. When I brought that up casually, trying not to sound accusatory, she said I was being paranoid, that everyone knew she was engaged, that she didn't need to announce it constantly to prove her commitment to me. That confidence in a relationship meant not needing constant validation. She made me feel crazy for even asking. Things deteriorated quickly after Miami. She started working late more often. Client meetings that ran long into the evening. Open houses that somehow required her presence until midnight on a Tuesday. Networking events that she'd never mentioned before and couldn't really describe when I asked about them. I'm not an idiot, and I'm not the jealous type by nature, but something felt wrong. That gut feeling you get when the math doesn't add up, when the story has holes you can't quite identify but definitely feel. Then I met Blake. It was completely accidental. I was grabbing lunch at this sandwich shop near my work site, standing in line scrolling through my phone, and Britney was there. With a guy, sitting at a booth in the back corner, very close together, laughing at something on his phone, her hand on his forearm in that familiar way that isn't just friendly, that lingering touch that communicates something more. She didn't see me. I watched for maybe 30 seconds, long enough to confirm that what I was seeing wasn't innocent, then quietly left without ordering. Didn't confront her, didn't make a scene, just filed it away in my mind and started paying much closer attention to everything. Blake was a mortgage broker who worked in the same building as Britney's real estate office. I found this out through some basic observation and a few careful questions over the following weeks. He drove a Tesla, wore expensive suits, had that slick salesman energy and 2 white teeth that some women apparently find attractive. He was also, according to his LinkedIn profile that I found after maybe 15 seconds of searching, still married. To a woman named Jennifer. They had 2 kids together and a house in the suburbs. I didn't confront Britney immediately. Instead, I started documenting everything, noting the times her stories didn't match up with reality, screenshotting the Instagram posts where she happened to be at the same restaurant or event as Blake's check-ins, building a timeline of every late client meeting and networking dinner that coincidentally overlapped with Blake's schedule based on his own social media. Call it paranoid. Call it obsessive. I call it protecting myself from the gaslighting that I knew was coming. The definitive confirmation came about 6 weeks later. She left her iPad at my house after spending the weekend, and a text notification popped up on the screen while I was cleaning up the kitchen, from Blake. The message preview alone was damning enough that I didn't need to read the full conversation. Last night was incredible. Can't stop thinking about you. I didn't explode. Didn't throw anything. Didn't call her screaming. Just sat there at my kitchen table, staring at that iPad screen like it had personally betrayed me. In a way, I suppose it had. It was the messenger of something I'd already known in my gut, but hadn't wanted to admit to myself. My first call was to Jake. He came over within the hour, took one look at my face, and just asked, "How bad?" I showed him the text. He read it, handed the iPad back to me, and sat down heavily on my couch. Asked what my plan was. I didn't have one yet, but I would. The next 2 weeks were a masterclass in acting normal, while your entire world is falling apart. I didn't let on that I knew anything, played the dutiful fiancé, talked about wedding plans like they mattered, even went to a venue tour with her and pretended to care about centerpiece options and table arrangements. Meanwhile, I was quietly untangling my life from hers piece by piece. I withdrew my $12,000 from the wedding account, every penny I'd contributed, left her $8,000 completely untouched. I wasn't a thief. I was just reclaiming what was mine. Canceled my contributions to the joint credit card we'd opened specifically for wedding expenses. Quietly moved important documents, tools, and valuables that she had access to back to secured locations. Changed the passwords on accounts I'd foolishly shared with her. The wedding vendors were trickier. We'd put deposits down on several of them together. Caterer, photographer, DJ florist. I let those ride for now because I wanted to time everything perfectly. No point in tipping my hand before I was ready to play it. Then came the girls' trip. 3 weeks before our scheduled wedding date, Britney announced that the Fabulous Five were planning a pre-wedding getaway. Cabo San Lucas. 6 days at an all-inclusive resort on the beach. Sort of a combination celebration slash bachelorette sequel since Miami was so long ago, and she deserved one more trip as a single woman. The cost was substantial. Nearly $5,000 per person for the resort package they wanted, plus flights and spending money. Britney sat me down one evening with this expectant look on her face. The look that said she'd rehearsed what she was about to say, and fully expected me to agree without question. So the girls and I have been planning this Cabo trip as one last hurrah before the wedding. It's going to be absolutely amazing. The resort has spa services, private beach cabanas, infinity pools, everything. I need you to transfer the money into my personal account by Friday so I can book it. I just looked at her. You need me to transfer money? Well, yeah. It's like $5,000 for my share, not counting spending money, and I don't have it liquid right now. I'm still paying off Miami, honestly. I figured you could cover it from the savings, and I'll pay you back after the wedding when things settle down, and I'm selling more houses. Pay me back with what? You spent your savings on Miami. You've been spending money on stuff I don't even see. What happened to the budget we agreed on? Her expression flickered, a micro-expression of annoyance before she smoothed it over, with practiced patience, like she was explaining something simple to someone too stupid to understand. This is important to me, Garrett. It's my last trip as a single woman. My friends have been planning this for months, and they're counting on me. I can't be the one who ruins it for everyone. Your last trip as a single woman? You're not single, Britney. You're engaged. You're supposed to be getting married in 3 weeks. You know what I mean. Before I'm tied down. Before everything changes. Tied down. Changes. Nice. I leaned back in my chair, keeping my face carefully neutral. I'm not funding a $5,000 vacation 3 weeks before our wedding. We have actual wedding expenses to worry about. The caterer's final payment is due. The photographer needs the balance. We don't have money to throw at another luxury trip. And there it was. The face. The wounded, indignant, how dare you face that I'd seen increasingly often over the past few months. You're being controlling again. This is exactly what Megan warned me about. You don't want me to have any fun. You don't want me to have friends or experiences or anything that doesn't involve you. You want to keep me trapped here while you control every single dollar I spend. Megan warned you about me not giving you thousands of dollars for vacation? Twice divorced Megan who hasn't paid her own rent in 3 years? That Megan? See, there you go attacking my friends again. She said you'd start getting worse once the wedding got closer. That men like you always show their true colors eventually when they think they've got a woman locked down. Men like me. Men who think they can control their partners through money and manipulation. Men who seem nice at first, but turn into controlling monsters once they feel secure. I actually laughed. Out loud. The audacity of the accusation coming from a woman who was actively sleeping with someone else was almost impressive in its shamelessness. Britney, I'm not controlling you. I'm declining to fund a luxury vacation that we genuinely cannot afford 3 weeks before our wedding. That's not control. That's basic financial sense. That's being a responsible adult. She stood up, grabbed her designer purse from the counter. Fine. I'll figure it out myself. I always do. But you should know that my friends are right about you. You're not the man I thought you were. Funny, I said, keeping my voice completely level. I was just thinking the same exact thing about you. She left, slammed the door hard enough to rattle the windows in their frames. I sat there in the quiet of my living room for a long time after, processing what had just happened. She'd called me controlling for not handing over $5,000 for a vacation with her friends. The same friends who'd been encouraging her to live her best life while she was sleeping with a married mortgage broker behind my back. The same friends she posted about constantly while never mentioning that she was engaged. She didn't come back that night, or the next. Got a few texts about how she was staying with Megan while I thought about my behavior and attitude. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I made some calls. Canceled our venue reservation, eating the deposit because I genuinely didn't care about the money anymore. Canceled the caterer. Canceled the photographer. Canceled the DJ and the florist and the bakery making our cake. Sent a polite, brief email to all the invited guests, explaining that the wedding was canceled due to irreconcilable differences discovered during the planning process. I also called her father. Richard seemed confused when I asked to meet him for lunch without Britney present, but he agreed after a pause. We met at a quiet diner near his house, just the two of us in a booth in the back. I told him everything. The cheating, the documentation I'd gathered, the text from Blake, the financial manipulation, the way his daughter had been treating me like an ATM while carrying on with a married man. I showed him screenshots, I showed him the timeline. I laid it all out calmly, without emotion, like I was presenting evidence in court. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he sat back and rubbed his face with both hands, suddenly looking about 10 years older. I wish I could say I'm surprised, he finally said. But I'm not. Linda and I have been worried about Britney's friend group for a while now. Those girls have been a bad influence since their sorority days, always encouraging her worst impulses, always pushing her toward things that weren't good for her. Did you know about Blake specifically? He shook his head. No, but I knew something was off. She's been different lately, more secretive, more entitled than usual, more dismissive of anything that didn't serve what she wanted in the moment. He looked at me with something like respect. You're handling this better than most men would. Most guys would be throwing punches or making threats by now. I'm not interested in drama, Richard. I just want out clean. I want my money back, my dignity intact, and to never see her again. He nodded slowly. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. You deserved better than what my daughter gave you. You're a good man who was going to be a good husband, and she threw that away for nothing. Coming from her father, that meant something. Not everything, but something. The fallout started about 4 days after I canceled everything. Britney called me 17 times in a single afternoon. I let every single call go to voicemail. The messages escalated from confused to angry, to threatening to pathetic over the course of a few hours. What do you mean the wedding is canceled? You can't just cancel our wedding without discussing it with me. Garrett, pick up the phone. This isn't funny. People are calling me asking what happened and I don't know what to tell them. If you don't call me back in 1 hour, we're done. I mean it. I'm done trying. Please, just talk to me. Whatever I did, whatever you think I did, we can work it out. We can figure this out together. She showed up at my house that evening. I was in the garage working on my motorcycle when her car pulled into the driveway too fast. She stormed in like she still owned the place, like she had any right to be there. What is wrong with you? You canceled our entire wedding without even talking to me about it first? Do you have any idea what you've done? I set down my wrench and wiped my hands on a shop rag, kept my voice level and calm. I know about Blake, Britney. Her face went through about 6 different expressions in 2 seconds. Confusion, denial, fear, calculation, more denial. Then finally, the last refuge of someone caught dead to rights, playing dumb. Who? I almost laughed again. The mortgage broker, the one you've been sleeping with for the past few months. The married mortgage broker, by the way. His wife's name is Jennifer. They have 2 kids together, a boy and a girl. Nice family photos on his Facebook. The color drained from her face completely. How did you... Does it matter how I know? You cheated on me. Multiple times over multiple months. While planning our wedding. While asking me to fund your vacations. While calling me controlling for having basic boundaries about money. It's not what you think it is. Spare me. I saw the text. Last night was incredible. That's not a friendship text, Britney. That's not a colleague text. That's not a text that has any innocent explanation. She started crying. The manipulative kind of crying that's more performance than genuine emotion. The kind designed to make me feel guilty for catching her. I made a mistake. One mistake. You can't throw away everything we built together over one mistake. One mistake that happened repeatedly over several months, while you were engaged to me, while I was working overtime and double shifts to pay for our future together. I shook my head. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern. That's a series of choices you made knowing exactly what you were doing and not caring how it would hurt me. I was confused. You were so focused on work all the time, and Blake paid attention to me. He made me feel special and wanted... So it's my fault you cheated? Because I worked too much? The same work that paid for the ring on your finger? That funded our wedding account? That would have paid for your precious Cabo trip if I'd been stupid enough to agree? She had nothing to say to that. Just stood there crying, looking around my garage like she was seeing it for the first time. Like she was finally realizing what she'd thrown away. We're done, Britney. The wedding's canceled. The accounts are separated. I want my house key back, and I want you to collect whatever stuff you left here by the end of the week. After that, I don't want to hear from you again. You can't do this to me. I'll tell everyone what you did. How you abandoned me right before our wedding. How you're a controlling monster who tried to isolate me from my friends. I shrugged. Go ahead. Tell them whatever you want. I'll tell them why I actually left. That stopped her cold. The threat of public exposure for her cheating was apparently more terrifying than losing me ever was. She left without another word, dropped my house key on the workbench like it burned her hand, and peeled out of my driveway fast enough to leave tire marks on the concrete. The next few weeks were interesting. Word spread fast in our social circles about the canceled wedding. Most people were tactful enough not to ask directly what happened, but I could tell from the whispered conversations and sideways glances at the gym and the grocery store that rumors were flying everywhere. Britney apparently told her version of events first. According to Jake, who heard it from his girlfriend who heard it from someone at her CrossFit class, I was a controlling monster who had canceled the wedding because I couldn't handle Britney having independence and friends. I had been financially abusive, emotionally manipulative, and ultimately abandoned her 3 weeks before their big day because I wanted to punish her for not being submissive enough. I didn't bother correcting the narrative publicly. Didn't need to. The truth has a way of coming out on its own when you're patient enough to let it. It came out at Megan's birthday party, of all places. I wasn't there, obviously, but Jake's girlfriend was there with some mutual friends. She gave me the full play-by-play afterwards, over dinner at Jake's place, clearly enjoying every detail. The Fabulous Five had gathered at some rooftop bar downtown for Megan's 30th birthday celebration. Expensive venue, VIP section, Instagram-ready decorations everywhere. Britney was there, playing the role of the wronged woman, accepting sympathy and validation from her friends like she was collecting communion wafers at church. At some point in the evening, she got way too comfortable with the attention she was getting. Started getting loud, started talking about how men were trash, how I had ruined her life, how she was better off without me anyway, how she was going to find someone who actually appreciated her. That's when someone at the party, a friend of a friend who happened to know Blake's wife Jennifer through their kid's school, dropped the bomb that changed everything. Wait, isn't Blake the guy you were sleeping with? The married one whose wife just found out and is filing for divorce now? The entire bar went quiet. Every head turned. Everyone stared at Britney. According to Jake's girlfriend, the next few minutes were excruciatingly awkward silence, followed by chaos. Britney tried to deny everything, then tried to minimize what had happened, then tried to blame me for being neglectful and emotionally unavailable, and pushing her into Blake's arms because I didn't give her enough attention. None of it played well with the crowd that had gathered to watch. Megan tried to run interference, tried to change the subject, tried to pull Britney away from the growing audience. But even she couldn't spin this one into something acceptable. Britney had been caught in a massive lie in front of everyone she cared about impressing. The wronged victim narrative collapsed in real time, like a house of cards in a windstorm. And then it got worse. Ashley, one of the Fabulous Five who'd always seemed slightly more sensible than the others, had apparently been suspicious for a while. She'd seen texts on Britney's phone months ago at a brunch, but hadn't said anything because she didn't want drama. But now, with everything already out in the open, she decided it was time to share what she knew. The affair had been going on for nearly 4 months. Not the few weeks Britney had implied. Blake had been buying her expensive gifts, taking her to fancy hotels downtown, promising he would leave his wife as soon as the timing was right and as soon as the kids were a little older. Classic cheater playbook, word for word. Britney had been playing both sides the entire time. Engaged to me, sleeping with Blake, lying to everyone about everything, planning a wedding while planning her escape route, taking my money while spending time in another man's bed. The birthday party pretty much ended after that revelation. Britney left in tears. Alone, her Uber arriving to pick her up while everyone watched in silence. The Fabulous Five scattered to their own corners, the hive mind fractured for the first time anyone could remember, and the carefully constructed narrative of Garrett the controlling monster crumbled into dust that blew away in the night wind. 2 weeks after the party, Britney tried to salvage things with Blake. According to multiple sources who witnessed it, she showed up at his office building around lunchtime, when the lobby would be packed with people heading out to grab food. She marched right up to the reception desk and demanded they call Blake down immediately, because she needed to speak with him about their future together. When Blake came down, probably expecting a client or something work-related, his face apparently went white as a sheet. Britney started making a scene right there in front of everyone, demanding he leave his wife like he'd promised, saying she'd given up everything for him, asking why he wasn't answering her calls or texts. Building security had to physically escort her out while she screamed about how he'd ruined her life and how he was a liar and a coward. The whole thing was witnessed by at least 30 people, including several of Blake's co-workers and a few clients waiting in the lobby. His reputation at that company was basically destroyed overnight. His wife Jennifer had given him an ultimatum right after she found out about the affair, and Blake chose his marriage without a second thought. He blocked Britney's number, blocked her on every social media platform, and apparently transferred to a different branch office across town just to avoid any chance of running into her. That was that. Then she lost her job. Turns out the real estate community in our area is pretty tight-knit. Word got around about her affair with a married colleague, and her broker decided the liability wasn't worth it. She was asked to transition to another opportunity within 30 days. Without the dual income she'd been counting on from our marriage, she couldn't afford her condo anymore. Missed 2 mortgage payments before the bank started sending letters. Her parents had to step in and help her sell it before it went into foreclosure. She cleared maybe $8,000 after paying off the loan and all the fees. Last I heard from Jake's girlfriend, Britney moved back in with Richard and Linda, the same parents who'd spent 2 years looking down on me for being a welder. Now they were supporting their adult daughter, who'd blown up her engagement, lost her job, and had to sell her condo at a loss. Megan's birthday party became legendary in our social circle. People talked about it for months. The night Britney's entire fabricated reality came crashing down in front of the same friends she'd spent years trying to impress. About 3 months after everything went down, I ran into Ashley at the grocery store. She walked up to me in the produce section, looking uncomfortable but determined. "Hey, Garrett, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I should have said something when I first saw those texts on her phone. I knew what she was doing was wrong, but I didn't want to get involved. That wasn't fair to you." I shrugged. "You're not the one who cheated on me. Not your responsibility to police your friends. Still, you deserve to know. And for what it's worth, the Fabulous Five isn't really a thing anymore. Courtney and Danielle stopped talking to Britney after the party. Megan's still defending her, but nobody takes Megan seriously anyway." She paused. "You seem like you're doing okay, though." "I am," I said, and I meant it. 6 months after the canceled wedding, Jake threw a barbecue at his place. Just close friends, some guys from work, his girlfriend, and a few people I didn't know. Grill going in the backyard, Duke the golden retriever stealing food off plates, music playing from a speaker on the porch. Jake's girlfriend brought her cousin Rachel. She was a nurse at the hospital downtown, had just moved to the area from Colorado. We got to talking about the house renovation, about welding, about her work in the ER. She asked questions and actually listened to the answers. Didn't check her phone once during the entire conversation. We exchanged numbers before I left. First date was the following weekend. Took her to that sandwich shop near my work site, the same one where I'd seen Britney with Blake. Felt like closing a loop somehow. Rachel didn't post pictures of our date on social media. Didn't ask me to transfer money into her account. Didn't call me controlling when I suggested we split the check. Just enjoyed the food, enjoyed the conversation, and made plans to do it again. By the time October rolled around, what would have been my wedding month, I'd finished the deck I'd been planning for the backyard. Cedar, not composite. Looks better. Smells amazing when the sun hits it. Rachel helped me stain it over a weekend. We ordered pizza and sat out there watching the sunset. Duke running around the yard because Jake had dropped him off while he was out of town. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "Garrett, it's Britney. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I've been doing a lot of thinking. I made a huge mistake, and I know that now. I've changed. I'm in a better place mentally. I was hoping we could talk sometime, maybe get coffee, and..." I deleted it before finishing. Blocked the number. Went back to watching the sunset with Rachel, Duke at our feet, cold drinks in hand. Some doors close for good reason. I wasn't interested in reopening that one.